going to go 3 wide on the start-finish straight at the start of lap 2. Who is going to break the latest? Jones in the middle of the sandwich. Bishop on the outside. Lindgren on the inside. Hard on the brakes we go down into T1, and Lindgren takes 2 in 1. A plethora of penalties in the lower half of the top 10 here as Solis now challenges Brooks for the race lead coming down the straight. He'll go hard on the brakes into the hairpin. Solis has got the inside line. He's got track position. He's now got the race lead.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go into the chicane. Both are going to try and send it around the outside to the chicane. What a move from both wide. Gallo goes for a move down the inside, has a bit of a look against Rodriguez. Rodriguez runs it deep. Here comes Baptiste Beauvoir on the inside of the pair of them. There's contact between them as we come side by side. 3 wide on the corner exit. Beauvoir on the inside, Gallo in the middle, Rodriguez on the outside. Beauvoir's going to try and send it down the inside to the left-hander, but Gallo holds on to second position to run for the line. Over the line comes Koke Lopez to take the win. It's side by side for second, and Sapai is surely going to take it, but Beauvoir gets it on the line. Hello, welcome to the 2020 FIA Gran Turismo Championships. We're back in action for the final time in 2020 for the top 16 superstars. My name's Tom Brooks. Alongside me, Jimmy Broadbent.
Hello,
Jimmy,
hello.
How are we? What was that? Why are you pretending to be a London policeman all of a sudden?
Well, I went in Rome and all that.
Except we're in London. Anyway, it is the top 16 superstars. It is the Oceania region. Let's kick straight off into it, shall we? Go with the Nations Cup and have a look at that, because if we look at the championship standings, we can see that Cody Lakovsky is at the top of the pile, but it's very, very close, especially if you look at the likes of third place, Emily Jones, Matt Simmons, not too far adrift. The mid-table is pretty quick. I mean, where do we start there?
Well, first of all, it's very much been the Cody show this year, hasn't it, for this season as well. He's been at the front pretty much every race, showing just why he's one of the best drivers in the world, and not just in this Oceania region. But of course, Emily Jones, I think, is probably our story of the season. Someone who we're used to sort of seeing back in the mid-pack here, having a fantastic drive of things, and is in third place and has a potential to finish there if things go her way in the race. But it's very tight there in that midfield.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the best 8 results from the top 16 superstars that count towards your final championship standing. So drivers have got a chance to improve, perhaps if they've not had such a strong season. Maybe this is where they'll come good, turn things around, and we might see that order being completely turned on its head in a race's time.
We hope so. It's our last chance. Round 30. There's no more after this. This is the last time for points on the board, so this is the one that really counts.
Yeah, let's have a look, shall we, at the race details going into the Nations Cup then for round 30, because we're at the Sardegna circuit. Sardegna Road Track A2 layout, which is a mouthful in itself, but we're in the Red Bull X 2019s. We've got racing hard, medium and soft tyres available. We've got 24 laps. Fuel and tyre wear is going to come into this massively, so what do you reckon?
Well, yeah, fuel stop. That's going to be a big one. You have to take fuel in this race. You'll do about half a tank. Half the race on a tank of fuel, I should say, sorry. So you have to fit it at some point. When you do that, it's going to be important. And then when you mix that with your tyres, every tyre, as Tom says, is mandatory. You've got to run every tyre. And to just throw something else into the mix, we thought rolling start. Nah, get it out of the window, that's boring. Standing start. So they've got to try and get these 800 horsepower V12 monsters off the line and down the T1 in one piece.
Yes, not the easiest task for these drivers, but again, that's why they're doing it, not us stood here. Anyway, let's head over to the grid, shall we? See how the drivers line up. So here is how our Oceania competitors line up at the start of the Nations Cup race here at Sardegna. Flash of the lights as we look at the X2019s on the grid. Cody Lakovsky starts from pole position. Alongside him on the front row, Dylan Lindgren. Second row of the grid headed by Matthew Simmons. And alongside Simmons, it is Emily Jones, of course, our winner from last time out, the first ever female winner in the top 16 Superstars race. Matt McEwen heads P5. And then alongside McEwen, it is Gopi Mahinderjit in 6th position. P7 on the grid is Andrew Lee in the very distinctive Australian livery. Jonathan Stankowski with the Benetton-esque livery lines up in P8. 9th position is Nicolas Voon. And on the fringes of the top 10 is Bradley. P11 on the grid is Paul Kander, again a driver who was very strong actually last time out. And 12th position is Gooms. P13 on the grid is Knowles. In 14th position is Bartle, a new name to the Oceania region. And the final row of the grid is Palmer in P15. And completing our 16 drivers is Fowles. Now, normally at this point I go over to Jimmy and ask him about the tyre strategy, but it's a standing start. There's a lot of tension in the air, so we'll get that out of the way first, and then we'll find out what's what. So, on the left-hand side of the screen is Kota Lakovsky. On the right-hand side is Dylan Lindgren. Tension is in the air as we get ready to get the top 16 superstars race underway. Round 30 for the Oceania Region Nations Cup race here at Sardegna is about to go green. Who is going to get the best start? Who will be leading in 24 laps time? We're about to find out. Revs are rising, don't get too much wheel spin off the start. Lakovsky on the left, Lindgren on the right, lights out and we go racing then. Good start from Lakovsky, not bad from Lindgren there either. Keep an eye out for Simmons as well as Emily Jones. Looks like she's lost a position off the start as they come barreling down into the left hand. They're going to flick it right and go into the first braking zone. Looks like Lakovsky was in the wall on the outside. A few drivers in fact into the wall on the outside. Lakovsky's lost position to Lindgren there and he's now on the defensive against Emily Jones, who's made up from her start. He's now into P3. Simmons shuffled down into 4th place and a lot of action going on mid-pack as well.
Yeah, great start for Jones up into P3. Terrible start for Lakovsky. Hit the wall in the background. Simmons making a mistake too, catching a bit of dirty air there from the car in front and going on to the grass. Coming up now to one of the first big braking zones of the course. It's right-hander. Very important to tuck the car in there in the apex. Matt Simmons doing so well up in 4th place. Emily Jones starting to put away. Simmons down a position as well from his starting grid. Man, we need more standing starts in GT Sport, man. It's always an absolute spectacle going down towards T1. Coming through the midsection now. This is where Dirtier is going to play a big factor. It's very fast right-hander. Again, tuck the car in, accelerate towards the barrier and exit. Simmons there just pick up a tiny bit of grass there. Bit of oversteer, but keeping the place for now. But Lakovsky at the front is going to be very upset at that start. He would want to lead from the front there.
Well, 3-tyre compounds available for these drivers. No surprise to see all of these soft compound runners getting ahead in the opening few corners. Matt McEwen down there in 8th position, the last of the soft compound of drivers in this race. Should expect everybody on the hard tyre to probably come in at the end of this lap. So Gopi Mahindajit, who's there in P10, if he can hold off the likes of Palmer and Voon on the opening lap, might put him in some good stead for the rest of this race. Here comes Kanda over the timing line, P6. Hard tyre runners coming in with Mahindajit. Reckon everybody else will pretty much be following suit as well. Indeed they do. And now you can see Kanda putting some pressure here onto Andrew Lee, who's in a bit of a sandwich here really, ghosting as they come through into that second corner, as he in turn was trying to put pressure onto Matt Simmons in front. But there's a big train of cars going through here as Lindgren just tries to pull out a bit of an advantage here, Jimmy.
If anything, though, he is being caught by Lakovsky. This is the problem around this course, of course, with these cars. It's great on-board shot now from Jones as we come through this right-hander, is that these things produce an absolute ton of downforce. Well, probably more than that, probably 2 tons to be honest, as we go up through the gears here, smash to the exhaust as you go through. I love that noise. But the problem is, dirty air. So it's very hard to get close to the car in front to actually get on an overtake. The guy in front still has to make a mistake if you want to try and get alongside. You're seeing that now as the car pushes. The front end does not comply with the driver in the steering wheel. That's because the air is being taken away from in front of us. Still on board with Emily Jones coming through this last sector now. Very hard to get on the throttle through this section. On the soft tyres, a bit easier though than the guys in the mediums and the hards. And of course, tyre strategy is going to play into the race as well here, coming into the last corner. You can use a little bit of a Saspro on the left-hand side. Emily Jones choosing not to do so. But the gap now stabilising at about a second between Lakovsky and Lindgren at the front of the field.
Yeah, that gap beginning to get a little bit more pronounced there, but let's see, as you said, if it does indeed stabilise. Coming through the left-handed kink before they go into the hard braking zone of the second corner. The field beginning to spread out as we're used to seeing in these opening few laps. I think it should probably get a little bit tasty towards the end as these different strategies work out. Still Paul Kanda putting pressure onto Andrew Lee. This is for P5 as they come out of turn 2 and head in towards the chicane. The thing is, it's such a tight circuit here, is where do you opt to find the way past? I mean, you were driving some hot laps around here earlier, Jimmy. Where are the opportune passing places at the Sardegna?
Just in the heavy braking zones, really. I'd say this isn't really one of them, although it is a heavy braking zone, because you're turning whilst braking into that right hand, so it's very hard to get alongside. Best place probably is down towards T1. You've got a big slipstream down there, or T2 I guess it is really technically. You've got a big slipstream down there, although Kanda looking to try to go around the outside here, which then becomes the inside for this very fast right. So there's an overtaking spot right there. Kanda doing the job for me. Thank you, mate. Appreciate that. And showing one of our good overtaking spots there. Basically anywhere with a big draft, if you can get onto the back of someone within a couple of attempts, you're going to get a nice big toe down the next straight, and that'll give you opportunity to try and get by into the corner afterwards.
Now, we're used to seeing rolling starts in these races here, Jimmy, but Kota Lakovsky, of course, started on pole position from the standing start, made a poor start. Lindgren got ahead by turn 2. He's now half a second behind. That gap has come down a little bit over the course of this lap. How much do you reckon that's going to have cost him in terms of his tyre life in these opening few laps, having to make up for lost time?
Well, that, and you're just scrubbing through the fast corners when you're trying to follow the guy in front. Lakovsky, though, maybe looking to have a go at Lindgren, looks to the outside. Lindgren defends, though. If he can cut back. He might get a run coming onto this next section of the course. He gets a good run out of the first corner. He's got this speed, but he might not have anywhere to put his car. No, he's going to have to stay behind Dylan for now, going for this fast left-right section. Now, this is where the car behind has a bit of a tougher job trying to keep onto the rear spoiler, because the dirty air is taking away his downforce, taking away his cornering ability. The guy in front not suffering with that, but this is a great place for Lakovsky to be now. He's come out of the right-hander, he's deep in the draft, so it'll have an overtaking opportunity now coming up to the fast right-hander. Will go for the left. He's going to go inside here, puts him on the outside though for the next corner, but it doesn't matter. He's already by Lakovsky up until he sweeps around the outside of Lindgren and back to where he started.
Oh, a big slide there from Lindgren in the background. That's going to cost him time, because he just got a bit eager on the power. Now 0.3 of a second it sits, a bit closer to that into the braking zone. Lindgren trying to retaliate against Cody Lakovsky's attack, but he's just powerless to do so. Clearly Lakovsky, the faster of the two drivers. He was quickest overall last time around, 0.4 of a second in fact faster than the man he overtook for the race lead of Dylan Lindgren, as well was Cody Lakovsky. So that's a very impressive turn of pace. Let's see whether he is going to be able to pull out an advantage of a significant margin over Dylan Lindgren and try to put right his wrongs after that difficult start to the race. Emily Jones, meanwhile, sitting there in P3. Bit of pressure on her from behind from Matt Simmons there, who is in 4th position, but he's not quite close enough to mount anything at the moment. Let's keep an eye out and see whether that gap does indeed change. Otherwise, everybody being relatively careful, except for Matt McEwen, who sends it down the inside of Andrew Lee into the second corner. Side by side he goes with Lee on corner exit. Was there a bit of contact between them through there?
No, he just clipped the inside wall there. He tried to be as tight as possible. He locked up his brakes on the way in, so definitely an A for effort there, but unfortunately execution not so great. Just tapped the wall on the inside, slowed him down on exit and put him back to where he was, having another go there. Very late lunge on Lee, but not quite going to have to get the job done through there. Fortunately for Lee though, but McEwen looking very, very aggressive at this point. Maybe needs to dial it back a little bit though, because he's still got a long race here.
Yeah, you can often cost yourself a bit more if you're a little bit aggressive in the opening stages perhaps than you would do otherwise. You can see Bradley there putting a bit of pressure on to the car of Matt McEwen. Let's see whether he is going to be able to find his way past. That's Micah Bradley, who is in P8, coming through the left-hander there. So trio of drivers, nearly a quartet there. Andrew Lee, who's just in the front of this one. Sorry, Paul Kander as well. Not too far away, and he could be involved in this squabble for the final position inside the top 5. Let's keep an eye out and see whether things do change between those guys. But everybody keeping each other relatively honest here so far. These soft tyres as well, I'm interested to see what sort of life these drivers are going to be able to get out of them, because whilst they're attacking, of course, they're scrubbing that speed off, and whilst you're stuck in that slipstream, it's going to cost you a little bit of time as well as pace, in theory, towards the end of your stint.
Yeah, we always talk about the tyre strategy here, and really, if you're in the soft compound of the tyre, what you want to do is be in this man's position, Cody's position right now, which is just be at the front of the field. Have a bit of clear air, use that soft tyre, really make sure you're getting the most in terms of performance, and use it from there. As Tom said, if you're fighting somebody, if you are squabbling and you're offline and you're having to brake earlier or brake later than you usually would, then you're just not getting the most out of that tyre as you would if you're driving alone. So really, you have to try and time your tyre uses correctly. Of course, that also then comes into play with, do you want to be able to fight with the guys around you? Because if you start on the hard compound, Cody! He's made a mistake coming out of the right-hander, got on the throttle too early, and round goes Cody. He's tried it. Oh, the car's shooting by there. He manages not to hit anyone, but disaster for Cody Lakovsky. That will be a bit of a kick in the teeth for him. So easy to do on that right-hander. I did it a few times in practice earlier on, and that's just the tyre starting to wear, and a bit too aggressive in the throttle, and that's Cody's race done, I think, in terms of the win.
We've talked about him being untouchable this season. He's seldom made mistakes, and right when it probably counts more than ever, he goes and makes a mistake. And is that going to cost Lakovsky very dear in terms of what it will mean for him with the championship? Let's see. He comes into the pit lane, writes off that lap completely. I'm not surprised either. Gets off the soft tyres, comes in for a set of medium boots. Now he wants to come out in some clear air to try and get as much damage and limitation as he possibly can. Where is he going to emerge in the race? That is the crucial question. He's got 11 seconds, in fact, of clear air to Micah Bradley in P7. So that is welcome there for Lakovsky, because he'll have that clear air. He'll have a bit of an advantage to try and close down and set some consistent lap times. Meanwhile, Lindgren now has clear track in front of him.
I always wonder if Cody likes his car or not, because we've seen, in the past he's had a couple of issues with his car. Spa from New York last year comes to mind.
Yeah.
One of the occasions there, and of course I think his last time out with it, he narrowly lost out to Takuma Miyazono at the Sydney event.
Yeah, he did.
So I'm sure maybe not good memories. Maybe that isn't helping. I don't know.
Some people like the high downforce cars. I'm personally not particularly a fan of them, not in terms of how they drive. I think they're fantastic, but I just don't like driving them as a car. Oh, Kanda having a moment there, coming out of the right-hander. That's lost him time. Has he lost position there as well? I think he just held on. That's unbelievable there from Paul Kanda. Fair play, old boy. Well, probably less of the old boy. He won't be a fan of me calling him that, but still, didn't lose time there. 5th position he holds on to now, but comes into the pit lane at the end of this lap regardless.
Like, I'm done with those tyres. I think I'll get rid of those.
But he's going soft here, so he's going 3-stop.
Yeah, he must be. So 3-stop strategy there for Canada. Will that work out? Well, we'll see. No fuel going in the car. There will be fuel having to be added at some point during this race, so that is going to come into play as well. But I think what he's opting to do is basically run out a tank of fuel on the soft tyres and then go medium to hard at the end. That'll be my guess from here. Probably same for Cody as well, who's actually just behind us. Well, I'll say just behind, about 4 seconds behind. But there are sometimes times when you're driving around in the car, like you have moments like Kanda had there, and you come out saying, oh, I survived that. I really didn't expect to. I think that's one of them.
Yeah, absolutely there for Paul Kanda. He'll be going off to buy a lottery ticket probably after this race, given his luck in that one. But there we go, bit of clear track in front of him there as well. That'll be a welcome sight. Keep an eye on the background. That's Cody Lakovsky. He has been pretty quick so far on this medium compound of tyre. Let's see what his lap time is going to be relative to anyone else once he's got a bit of heat into his tyres. But has done a good job of closing that gap down. Now sitting in 8th position is Cody Lakovsky after that mistake he made already on lap 8 here. It's just absolutely flying by this race here.
Well, they are. It was like what it's like in this car, really. You sit down and you forget these things are essentially the same sort of performance as an F1 car. I mean, you're great on board shot with Cody now. You can see the speedometer there, right in the centre, right in the driver's eye view, so you know exactly the speed you're taking to each corner, and the rev count just below. Look what we rev to. 18,500 RPM when we machine gun up through the gears, already in 6th gear before we even hit the line. 7th gear, 280 kilometres now. You can see it's 180 mile an hour down there. 185 to go for the first corner, completely flat through there. Look for your braking marker on the left hand side. Then nail the brakes into T1, down through the gears, all the way down the 1st gear, up to 2nd on an exit for traction, and then back on the throttle once more. It's so hard to keep up with this car when you're driving around, and that's what makes these guys, our superstars. To be able to keep up with this car and drive it as quickly as they do is an achievement in itself.
So just having a look at the championship standings, looks like Lakovsky and McEwen will not be able to be caught in terms of it. So that is good news for them, and especially good news for the man riding on board here with Cody Lakovsky. It's interesting though for 3rd position. Dylan Lindgren, the driver who is leading this race at the moment. He is 6th in the championship going into round 30. But he could potentially leapfrog himself up into 3rd place if if the lady rather, I should say, behind him, Emily Jones, in 2nd position, finishes in P4 or lower. Interestingly, Matt Simmons, who is, of course, in 3rd position in this race, could potentially get himself up into 3rd position in the championship as well if he finishes in P2 in this one. Meanwhile, Jones and Lindgren coming into the pit lane here. So Lindgren going soft, Jones going soft-medium. So 3-stop here from Lindgren, 2-stop for Jones.
Bit of a divergence in strategy there. Matt Simmons is looking like he might get past one of them. I think he gets past. No, Jones stays out in the lead, interestingly. Okay, so, Simmons there with the extra overspeed, just getting by Lindgren, who was a bit slow coming out of the pit lane. I think that caught Simmons off guard a little bit. Lindgren was going fairly slow. So Emily Jones right now is the overall leader of this race. I think there has been some fuel taken because she wasn't 2 seconds clear before, so there might have been a bit of fuel taken there from some of the people a bit further down the field. But this is a good opportunity for Emily to put in some quick laps in clear air. If she can, of course. Simmons behind as well. We know how quick Simmons is. We see him quite often on track together, Simmons and Jones. We know they sort of do a bit of practice together as well, so very similar sort of speed. There is Lee as well. Oh, go on.
Simmons going to be a sitting duck here. I was just about to say to Dylan Lindgren because he's on the soft compound tyre. Lindgren goes through, goes a bit wide, coming out of the corner. Here comes Simmons to retaliate back though. Andrew Lee and Paul Kanda ready to join the party. Coming into the left-hander, Lindgren's up the inside. Does he manage to get through with Matt Simmons?
Rude.
Yes, he does. That was aggressive. Lee's going to go all the way around the outside of Simmons. That's the difference on soft tyres. Kanda's off onto the grass as he has no room there with Simmons coming off as well. And it looks like Lee is going to mug Simmons, so 3 places lost in the spaces as many corners there for Matt Simmons.
Absolutely mugged was Matt Simmons there. He got hip and shouldered by Lindgren, which has opened the door for everybody else. Lee, no, I thought he was going to come in the pit lane there. So Lindgren is aggressively defending from Lee. I think that's almost bordering on weaving. Dylan, be careful there, mate, down the straight. And then going defensive into T1 as he's starting to do so. Kanda looking at the inside of Lee as well. It's very hard to go 2x2 by there. Very easy touch the wall. Kanda sideways, smashing the throttle and exit, trying to get the better run out of there and oversteering slightly because of it, but does make it past Lee, who gets a bit of a bump into the wall, and Lee into the wall in the background. Simmons narrowly avoids it, I think, but Lee losing out there. And I think that might have been a little bit naughty from Kanda.
I think Lee is going to be pretty chuffed off after that one. He will be incandescent with rage, I imagine, because it wasn't his fault there. Just wrong place, wrong time. One of those things. Let's see whether McEwen can get himself ahead of Matt Simmons here. Coming down into the left-hander we go. This is medium tyre versus medium tyre. McEwen on the inside. Simmons just doesn't look comfortable at all. He's all at sea on this medium tyre. Mid-stages through this race, and as such is going backwards. Now loses fourth position there to Matt McEwen. So, well, what is Matt Simmons going to do here? And is this going to potentially cost him positions in the championship?
May well do at this point. And this is our last opportunity for our drivers to score those vital championship points. It's all or nothing now, round 30, last race of course, our third season here. Fourth down to ninth, all together on track right now. At the back of that is Cody, Nicola Lakovsky, of course, who spun earlier on in the race. Meanwhile, we're on board with Bradley as we go down towards T1. It's more of a little kink, though. It's completely flat. Side by side is pretty scary, though. She can touch the car on the outside. A little bit of door-to-door contact or whatever. That's the door. Lee's going to try both of them. He has to go up the inside there. Backs out of it in the last second. I think he thought better of that in the last second. But that was nearly an incredible move by Lee, or a very stupid one. I think, again, he did the right decision to back out of that. We're still with Simmons, though. But as you said, Tom, Simmons is going backwards right now.
I'd agree with that being a bit more sensible there from Lee. I think he was having flashbacks to the last lap. Looks like he's got a bit wider there. Is they going to allow Stankowski to put alongside? Not quite coming through that. But, yeah, Simmons definitely struggling in these mid-stages. Here's Lakovsky, though, the man who has got a great view of all of the action going on in front of him. So through into the left-handed kink we go, ready to go onto the brakes into the right-hander, shifting down into third gear. Look at Lee, good traction out of there. Is that going to allow him to close up onto Matt Simmons? It certainly is. Is he going to have an opportunity to find his way through into the left-hander? He has a bit of a look. Simmons tries to hold it around the outside. It's very aggressive indeed from all of these drivers. Lee shovelled out to the outside. He's on the gravel. That's going to allow Stankowski to come through and pull alongside. So Stankowski profits and now is ahead of Lee, and it looks like Stankowski's going to try and have an attack on Simmons here very shortly as well. So from attacking to losing a position and a slide out of the corner there as well. It's bad to worse for Andrew Lee here. He now drops down to P9.
Lee's getting bullied in this race, mate. He was doing all right, and then he got shoved into the wall by Kanda. Got shoved out of the way there, Tom.
I was just saying, Emily Jones is coming right out in the middle of this pack. She's going to lose out to Andrew Lee, but crucially, she's not out in clean air. Here comes Lakovsky down the inside of Jones into turn two. Side by side they go. On corner exit, is Jones going to have anything to try and hold off the charge here of Lakovsky through into the right hand? And she doesn't, and that is very difficult indeed for her outlet. Oh, they're all ghostly, and there's a contact.
Stankowski round.
He is, yeah, into the barrier there for Stankowski, so it looks like a concertina effect going into that corner. But I was just saying, Emily Jones, who's now on the hard compound of tyre, although she's only going to be on it for one lap, that could potentially be a bit of a spanner in the works for her race strategy coming out where she is.
Well, unfortunately, she came out, lost a second straight away of Stankowski going around. We didn't quite catch what happened there, but I think it was just about a million cars going for the same space of track. And Stankowski, unfortunately, was not welcome in that space, it seems. But it doesn't mean Emily's lost a little bit of time. So her goal now is really to try and get around to the pit lane as soon as she can. Also lost a position to Voon there on the soft compounder tyre. Past he goes. So, and now Emily just trying to hold on for dear life on that hard compounder tyre. The difference is about 1.5 to 2 seconds between the soft and the hard compounder tyre around this circuit. So being on it really is not a pleasant experience. Let's see if Emily Jones peels into the pit lane then to get rid of that hard compounder tyre. She does. And she'll be going on, probably a bit of fuel going on onto the soft tyre now.
I fear this may have cost her very dear, though, in terms of the race, because whilst that's happening, Dylan Lindgren has increased his advantage to 2.3 seconds. Fuel on board here for them as well. That's a good point, actually, to mention. We haven't really talked about fuel that much recently because it's not really been a factor. These cars, very heavy on fuel, so you've got to be careful about how you manage it.
Yeah, I did mention a bit earlier on in the race that there is going to be fuel added in this. Oh, Simmons hanging it all out there, almost touching the grass. Something you do not want to do at high speed in these cars is slide. They rely on downforce, which needs you to be gripping up on the circuit. As soon as you start sliding, as soon as the air starts going over the car in a different way, and intended Stankowski in the background making a meal of the right-hander coming downhill here. So Stankowski's race going from bad to worse. He'll be upset with that. But yeah, as soon as you start sliding, the air is not going over the wings as intended, and the car starts to act all kinds of weird. And then Matt Simmons finding it out again, sliding through the right-hander.
He's just all over the shop here as Matt Simmons at the moment. He's really struggling with the balance of that car. I'm not quite sure what it is, whether he's picked up a bit of damage perhaps or something along the lines of that. Something's not right with him and this car at the moment, because he had great pace. You don't qualify where he did and end up in the position that he's in just by pure chance. There's got to be some kind of logical reason behind it. Look at him getting onto the power and sliding. Paul Cadder comes into the pit lane, by the way. He's come in for a set of medium boots. Matt Simmons also doing the same, so maybe it's his tyres that were causing him to slide. He's going medium to hard then for this stint. 10 laps now remain here at Sardegna. On to the hard compound of tyre. I don't think he took any fuel on board, so he's only going to do the one lap and then come back in, but he's ahead of Paul Cadder here, and Lakovsky just in front of the shot there as well.
That's no, Jones is done on her stop, isn't she? She's going to the end now.
I'm just having a look at the
free stop.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, she's 3 stopping in this one, so she's running to the end on the soft tyre. 11 laps is she going to do on the soft tyre? That's going to be brave.
She has also put in a load of fuel as well, so she's made her fuel stop. So she's a bit further down than we expect. I suspect once the stops come out, she'll still be in the top 3 or 4. But as you said, Dylan Lindgren right now sort of been gifted this. He's just out front, 5.7 seconds now over McEwen behind. Really all he's got to do now is drive a sensible race, but he's not taken fuel yet. He's only made 1 stop. Still got 2 stops to go because he went soft to soft.
And if we look at Lakovsky, we have always seen one simple mistake can cost you very dear as well. So you just have to be a bit careful, a bit mindful of that. It's very easy, I think, when you end up getting into the zone to fall out of it very quickly for one reason or another. You fall out of that zone, lose a bit of concentration. It can cost you if you make a mistake. So Matt McEwen comes into the pit lane then. 1 litre of fuel left. He was cutting that pretty fine, wasn't he? Medium to the soft compound here then for his final stint in this race, presumably. In fact, no, he still owes the hard compound tyre there, Matt McEwen, so he'll have to run that before the end of this one. Gopima Hinderjic coming in, as well as Lakovsky and Matt Simmons. Everybody going onto the soft compound of tyres, and a lot of drivers taking fuel on board. No surprise there, because the tanks are nearly empty. Let's see how this is all going to play out then. So this is kind of the mid-stage bit where we're sort of piecing together all the different strategies, working out exactly what's going to happen with the different permutations. It all kind of comes together at the end of this one, but whilst you're this man here, Dylan Lindgren, you've got no competition behind you, you can just run a clean race. You don't have to worry about anything like that. Meanwhile, Emily Jones now finally does have a bit of clear air to just get her head down. Well,
she's had clear air since she came out of the pits, so she'll be putting in faster zaps right now. I'm no doubt of that, or very, very quick laps at least. So at this point, you know, she's still in contention, I think, here. And again, bear in mind, while she is a little way behind the guys in front, she's taken her fuel, and the fuel is the big time loss in your pit stops. So she's done that, out of the way.
Yeah, that's good to see there for Emily Jones. She'll be happy with not having to run, taking more fuel on board if she's running to the end of this race. I mean, her tyres are going to be completely ruined by the end of it, but if she's careful and she's not stuck behind a car as she is not at the moment, then she should have, in theory, a little bit better tyre life compared to those who perhaps are running behind a car, running in that dirty air and scrubbing off more rubber.
So here's interesting. Bradley and Lee in the pits, they're now taking their fuel. This we will see where they come out in relation to Emily Jones, who's taken her fuel too. They've gone for 61 litres. They're pitted a bit later on, so they've come out quite a way ahead of Emily here. But they are on the medium tyre, and Emily will be lapping quicker at this point. On the last lap alone, she took 1.2 seconds out of Kander in front.
Well, let's see what happens here for Emily Jones. She's got it all to do after a difficult middle stint, following that pit stop where she came out on the hard compound of tyre and was stuck behind that traffic. Likes of Jonathan Stankowski, Koda Lakovsky also caught up in that drama there as well. Here is Paul Kander putting some pressure onto Micah Bradley then. Is he going to be able to find his way past? Coming into the right-hander. Not quite able to find a way through there at the moment, but certainly looking very racy indeed. All of these 3 drivers on the medium compound of tyre. Kander's got the advantage of the slipstream. Is he going to be able to find a way through? Has a bit of a look into the right-handed kink, but not able to do so at the moment from Bradley. Matt McEwen in the front of your shot there as well, who is in P2, coming into the right-hander. So Kander definitely looking very quick here and looking like the more aggressive of the trio who are squabbling for these positions.
These guys also, all of them, owe the hard compounder tyre. Everyone above, from 5th to 1st, owes the hard compounder tyre. That means one more stop at least. Emily does not. Candy looking up the inside now. Try and going for P4 through this fast section. It's not usually 2x2 through here, but we know Candy is not one to listen to such things. Now we go down the straight. Oh, he's just getting out on that AstroTurf on the left there. It's super slippy out there. But now they have the draft all the way down to the first corner, which is just a fast kink to the left. And then heavy on the brakes into T1. Looks like he's got a long side. He'll be on the inside here. Oh, just sweeps on by Bradley up into fourth. Will Bradley try and come back into the braking zone? He does. It's a long side. I think he is anyway. No, Cannon shots across and goes up into P4.
Lovely stuff there from Paul Cannon. Mines his way through into fourth position. He'll be happy with that. Next target is, of course, the man in front of Andrew Lee. As Jimmy said, all these drivers owe the hard common of tyre, so that's good news there for Emily Jones. Still pulling seconds out of these drivers. Now the gap down to 4.3 after it was over 5 seconds last time around, so she is significantly quicker than all of these drivers who are on the medium tyre. You can see her there in the background of your shot. That gap is definitely coming down. Dylan Lindgren, meanwhile, 25 seconds he's got over Matt McEwen on the race lead. He is just in a different postcode compared to everybody else as it stands.
It is. I mean, his lap times as well, they're still fast on that soft compounder tyre. And saying that, he comes into pits, he has to come in. 4 litres of fuel left. He would have not have made another lap. The medium tyres go on. So that's the medium tyre requisite ticked. In goes the fuel as well. It won't be as much fuel because he's gone quite far on this stop here. So 54 litres going, which means less time stationary in the pit lane, which would be great for him. He comes out the pits. What's his gap back to McEwen now? It'll update in a second. Still saying 24 seconds to McEwen. I'm not quite sure that's entirely right. It might actually be. I'm not sure. No, we'll double check when he comes across the line. It's just going to be updated. No, 11 seconds now is the gap. So that's come right down. Both of them still owe the hard compounder tyre as well. So yeah, it's going to be hard to call this until we know the exact end. And meanwhile, Bradley goes back by Kanda. Down towards T2. These two squabbling. It's going to be great for Lee in front. He's behind to put away. Look in the background. Emily Jones, she's now pulled on to the back of his pack. Only 3 seconds behind this shot as well. And while these guys are fighting, they're going to be both falling back from Lee and falling into the clutches of Emily behind.
Very welcome result there for Emily Jones. Let's see what happens between them. 5 laps now remaining, 4.5 there and thereabouts actually, here at Sardegna. Then for round 30 of the Oceania Region Nations Cup race, coming down into the left-handed kink is Pat Kanda. Going to have another look at Bradley there, signaling his intention but not sending on down the inside, just playing it sensibly here as things stand at the moment. So coming down in towards the left-hander, which does follow into that chicane, flicking it left and then flicking it right. And Kanda, it's interesting here because it looked like he was for a time going to battle with with Lee rather, these two. They were going to mount a charge on Lee for the final position on the podium, but not to be at the moment because they've been involved in their own battle, and as such the gap has increased between all of these drivers.
Interesting, McEwen gained 2 seconds on that lap to Lindgren. Went from 11 to 9 seconds. So McEwen right now is the fastest man on the track. Last time out was a 23.6. Lindgren, 25.9. That was out the pit lane.
It was out the pit lane, yeah. I was going to say he did come out the pit lane, so he had to get the tyres up to temperature, but still, that is a significant gap to close down there for Matt McEwen. He's on the soft tyres, so he's going to be a bit quicker anyway, but those tyres will probably be coming to the end of their shelf life very soon.
Well, we'll see. I think this is going to be realistically between Lindgren and McEwen at this point. McEwen looking like he's very, very quick right now. Cody will be just ruining what could have been. I say that, Cody still has the best lap of the race at 23.5, and his lapping, he's the second fastest guy on the track after McEwen.
Yeah, it's impressive stuff there actually for him. Very good stuff there for Cody Lakovsky. Here comes Kanda down the inside of Bradley. So this has been a race-long feature. Bit of a slide out of the corner there as he gets onto the power a bit too aggressively. Does that cost him drive? Not too much. As such, stays ahead of Bradley into the next left-hander. Welcome stuff there for Paul Kanda. Now, can he pull out an advantage over Micah Bradley? That's a crucial question. Sitting in P4, of course, owes the hard common of tyre, as does Bradley, as does Lee in front. In fact, all of these drivers, as you can see, inside the top 5, they all owe the final compound of tyre, the hard compound of tyre. So let's see what happens between them to the end of this race. Down the start-finish straight we go once more. Going to flick it left into the first corner. Kanda goes defensive. Bradley not able to mount anything anyway. And Jones has brought that gap right down now, sitting at 1.3 seconds. Bear in mind, only a handful of laps goes at 5 seconds. Here comes Bradley down the inside of Kanda into turn 2. Runs it a bit hot though, but covers off the exit of the corner and is now back into P4.
I want to sort of play the Jaws music here. Emily behind is just every time these guys change position, she gains a couple of attempts. Gap is a second, there she is. She's almost in the same frame as these guys now. And this is the next hard bit for Emily. How does she get by them? She's got the pace, obviously, but these guys are obviously also showing no intention of letting either of them get away. So she's going to have to put a very firm move on both of them if she wants to get by quickly, and she kind of needs to get by quickly too. Otherwise, she's going to end up losing time.
But you can see losing time there as well as she just gets a slide on her at the exit of the corner. She's now in that dirty air. It's that horrible position to be in, where you're stuck in the dirty air of the car behind. The front is just washing out and not gripping. And look at that, yeah, a bit of a slide coming out of the corner there. A bit too eager on the power there for Jones. Still very close to Paul Kander. When is she going to pounce and make that move coming through these S-bends into the very hard braking zone of the right-hander? Good traction out of here will help her. Is she going to pull into the slipstream? Well, you imagine she will do, but is she going to pull out of that slipstream amount of charge? Bradley comes into the pit lane. No, he doesn't. Thought he was going to. Opts against it at the last minute. Jones is going to pull to the inside, the outside rather, because look, as Bradley goes to the inside, then Kander as well. We're going to go 3 wide into the wall there for Jones on the outside. She's going to get 2 positions in the space of a couple of corners. Penalty there for Paul Kander as Jones sends it down the inside at turn 2. She's got 4th position on corner exit. They draw side by side, Jones versus Kander, but Jones does get ahead there. So a big amount of drama going through those couple of corners, but 2 places gained for Jones.
That was a brilliant move by Emily there. I was thinking, how is she going to play this? Because the thing is, Kander had the slipstream of Bradley in front, so she couldn't just pull out, because otherwise Kander would pull away of a slipstream. So she waited right to the last second, went to the outside of the corner, forced Kander to stay behind Bradley into the right-hander, then had both of them into the braking zone. That is just, she was thinking so far ahead there. I'm all about that move.
Well done there for Emily Jones. So Paul Kander with that 2-second penalty, that is going to be a disappointment for him. Now, of course, it's very important here for Emily Jones because she could potentially be set to take 3rd place in the championship here in the top 16 superstars. Let's see what's going to be for her. She needs 3rd position in this race. If Lindgren wins, as he's set to do so at the moment, she will not finish 3rd. Lindgren will jump her, so she needs to get up into P3. A reminder, of course, that in front, the top 3 drivers, Lindgren, McEwen and Lee, all owe the hard compound of tyre. 4.4 seconds. Do they owe fuel, though? It could come down to that on the last lap.
We'll see. The thing is now, Emily's sort of in the hot seat. She has a free track. The tyres are going to be a bit worn at this point. She will be lapping probably a bit quicker than Lee. Lee on the last lap on that hard tyre will be about a second, 2 seconds slower. Plus the pit stop as well. It's going to be very close. I think that Emily probably is going to come out the pits ahead of Lee, and that's all she needs to do. All she's got to do is finish in 3rd here. And with Lindgren winning this race, that will not be enough for Lindgren, and Emily Jones will finish the series in 3rd position, which will be a fantastic result. And again, by far the best result for a female sim racer here. Great, and again, just making history. It's fantastic to see it.
Yeah, it really is. Took her first win in round 28 last weekend, and good to see her competing at the sharp end once more. So Lindgren coming into the pits at the end of this lap, as is McEwen, as is Lee. The crucial question is, where will those 3 drivers emerge? Are they going to have to take fuel on board? Lindgren's got 11 litres. He'll be fine to the end of this one. Onto the hard tyre. McEwen's going to come in here as well. He owes the hard tyre. Where's he on fuel? 7 litres. Oh, that could be touch and go. He might need to put a couple of litres in to get him to the end. He might be okay. What about Lee? Same story for him. Onto the hard tyre. But where is Emily Jones in relation to these drivers? Here she is. She's coming through the start-finish straight and coming out of the pit lane there. Where is she going to emerge? It's going to be P3. It is enough for Emily Jones. If she sits as she is, if she stays as she is for the checkered flag, that is 3rd place in the standings for her.
She might even nab 2nd here, Tom. Only 1.3 seconds to McEwen up ahead. She's going to be on that hard compounded tyre, and even compared to a worn soft tyre, that hard is a lot slower. So Emily now has 2nd place in her sights. If she can just get a run on McEwen, this could be a 2nd place for Emily Jones instead of just 3rd.
Let's see what she can do then, coming down through the right-hander onto the straight. Is she going to have anything in the locker? Keep an eye on as well. Lakovsky, great recovery from him, sitting in P4 with Gopi Mahindajit for company. We've hardly mentioned Gopi in this race, but he has proven to be a bit of a feature inside the top 5. Nicely done there for Mahindajit. Now, the question is, can Jones find her way through with a slide like that? It's going to be difficult.
Yeah, those tyres are firmly on the way out at the moment. Only a few more corners left for this race. And Dylan Lindgren now coming for the last sequence of corners.
This is brilliant from Dylan Lindgren. What a race. He has controlled this from lights out to the very last lap, and now he has only got the home straight to go. Dylan Lindgren wins round 30 of the top 16 superstars for the Oceania region. What a great race from the Australian driver. Matt McEwen comes home in second position, and Emily Jones does take third place in the race and in the championship as well. Lakovsky comes home P4. Great recovery drive from him, with Mahinderjit in P5, Lee in 6th, Simmons in 7th, then comes Voon, and it's a drag to the line between Stankowski and Bradley by the looks of things there for P9. Stankowski just getting it by a whisker ahead of Bradley as Paul Kander skids his way over the timing line. Well, I tell you what, there's often a bit of criticism sometimes for there not being action in some of these races. That was action from start to finish.
Definitely, and we have to remember, of course, and not take it away at all, although it wasn't the best race for Cody, he is the champion of this series, round 30. He would have wanted to end it off with a win, but you know, all he needed to do really was to turn up and race, and he would have won it, and he did. So fantastic result by Cody, massive congratulations, and it'll be McEwen who takes the second position in the series with Emily Jones in third.
Lindgren, well, he did everything he needed to do, everything he could have done, really, in that race. You can see their confirmation of the results on your screen. Lindgren from McEwen from Jones. Then comes Koda Lakovsky in P4, the winner of Stage 3 of the online season for the Oceania region. Mahinderjit, Lee, Simmons, Niklas Voon down there in P8, but what an absolutely spectacular race. We'll just run you through the rest of the competitors. There comes Stankowski, as you can see, just ahead by the skin of his teeth. Micah Bradley, in P10. Kander, Knowles, Fowles, Gooms, Palmer and Bartle complete our 16 drivers here. What a race in the Nations Cup. Let's see if the Manufacturers Series is going to be as good. Just a couple of small errors there has cost McDonald, and it could cost him a position here. On the inside they go into Wicks. Is he going to go try and hold it the long way around the outside there for Wilk? They run side by side on the exit. Here comes Matt McEwen ready to come through. Side by side we go with McEwen on the inside, down in towards Puon. He goes for the move. He gets the position. Now Brooks is through into third place. Here comes Heck down the inside of Troncoso. Side by side action on lap 17, and the Porsche is now going to be ahead of the Citroen, but is he going to be able to retaliate into the next corner? Look in the background as well, because up the inside for 6th position was Agacard. That was on Carey. He's gone wide again into that right-hander. That allows Bishop to pull alongside. They're running side by side. Is Bishop going to go clean around the outside? That'll be a hell of a move if he can pull it off. Running side by side up in towards Yun Cao. Mahinderjit on the inside, Bishop on the outside. Can the Kiwi do it? Yes, he can. Side by side we go through the centre S. Beauvoir has got the outside line there, bashing door handles and wing mirrors as we come through turn 3. Gallo still holds on in defence, but here comes Coque Lopez down the retroposter then. So in the slipstream for Beauvoir, challenging for the lead, but here comes Lopez on the outside. We're nearly going 3 wide down the straight. Of course, it's a very different tyre compound strategy here, and here comes Lakovsky on the inside as Holland makes a mistake on the corner exit, and Lakovsky goes through into the lead, surely into Yun Cao. Side by side they go. The Mercedes takes the lead away. Let's go over to the Manufacturers Series, shall we, and have a little look at the championship standings, because Koda Lakovsky was on top in the Nations Cup. In terms of the Manufacturers Series, it's the same story.
Oh, how surprising. I mean, this time, this is a gap that I think really is just unassailable. That's nearly 200 points he has over closest competitor Adam Wilk in that Ford. Great season for Wilk to drag that Ford up there. It's never really been represented elsewhere apart from in this Oceania region. McDonald there as well, and Emily Jones again. I think maybe second to fourth can still change, but Wilk's in a good place, but specifically that battle between Wilk and McDonald is one to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't seen Dan Holland for a while, so he'll be staying put where he is. Matt Simmons, though, Cy Bishop, potentially Matt McEwen, all with possibilities to move up in the championship standings. It's going to be exciting. And I have to say, you were saying about Cody having an unassailable lead. Really impressive, considering that Merc, especially the last couple of rounds, hasn't really been that quick.
Yeah, I mean, we're always on a sort of fluctuating BOP in this series, and the Merc has been, I think the term is nerfed a bit recently. But still quick, and of course in the hands of Cody, I think any car's quick. So I think, again, impressive result from him, as always.
Looking forward to him dragging a dumper truck round at some point then to see how quickly he can lap the Nordschleife.
That's like going to be our next daily race, please.
Let's have a look, shall we, at the race details for the Manufacturer Series. Take a closer look at it. So, top 16 superstars at the Tokyo Expressway South Inner Loop. This is a track, of course, that we've seen in our World Tour event previously. It's a street circuit, close racing, long straights, tight corners, twisty corners, Group 3 cars. I mean, what more could you want?
Well, the thing is, you think, street circuit, can't pass around there. see these big old straights here. Drafting is the name of the game around here. You can maybe sneak an undercut. This you are going to need to change your tyres at some point, but it's only the racing medium compounded tyre. You could technically do the whole race on one set of tyres, so I definitely wouldn't recommend it.
No, vibes of Lewis Hamilton at Silverstone are coming back to haunt me.
It worked for him in the end. So.
Yes, quite. I would like to see it for these guys, though. You can see 17 laps for the drivers, 2 times fuel consumption, 8 times tyre wear, rolling start for these drivers, so a little bit less chaotic, perhaps, than we saw in the Nations Cup just a few moments ago. Anyway, let's head over to the grid, shall we? See what happens. So here are the cars lined up on the grid for the start of the Manufacturer Series race for round 30 of the FIA Gran Turismo Championships in Group 3 cars. Pole position, Gopi Mahindajit in the Nissan GTR. Alongside him on the front row of the grid, Matthew Simmons in the Porsche 911 RSR. Second row of the grid, headed by Guy Barbara in the Mazda RX Vision GT3 Concept, rotary engine in that one, of course. Cy Bishop is alongside him on that second row in the Toyota Supra. Then it's Jay Wong in the Mazda again, the second of the Mazdas on the grid. P6 is Tame. P7 on the grid is Andrew Lee in the Subaru WRX. And alongside him in 8th position is Adam Wilk in the Ford GT. Oh dear, look at that livery. Cody Lakovsky lines up P9 in the Mercedes-Benz. Hopefully he can move forward from there, as will Emily Jones like to in the Audi R8. P11 on the grid, Keaton McDonald in the BMW M6. And in 12th position, Matt Allen in the Alfa Romeo 4C. P13 on the grid is Connor Healy in the Honda NSX. And the last few drivers lined up, Fayen in the Volkswagen Beetle is P14. And P15, Jonathan Stankowski in the second of the German manufacturers. Matthew McEwen completes our 16 drivers. Now, of course, Jimmy, we've only got medium tyres available for these drivers, so tyre strategy shouldn't be too important, but it'll be interesting to see when they come into the pit lane over the course of these 17 laps. Yeah, I mean, obviously interesting round here, because strategy always comes into play in these races. I'm just looking at the starting order right now. Of course, great to see a GTR on the front row, eh, Tom? That's good, isn't it? Nice seeing this at the top there. Matt Simmons behind in the Porsche. Barbara in the Mazda. We haven't seen much of Mazda, honestly, in these Manufacturer Series, so obviously a good track for them. But this circuit, street circuit around here, so any small mistake is met with a big face-off barrier. So be as clean as you can around here. Avoid the barriers, and you should do pretty well. So Mahindajit lines up on pole position, then rolling start for these drivers. You can see 2 times fuel consumption, 8 times tyre wear, and 17 laps for our drivers to contend with at this Tokyo Expressway circuit, a track that provided fireworks in our World Final in Monaco last year. Who is going to take the victory in 17 laps time, and who, of course, with the manufacturers, is going to emerge on top? We're about to find out. Mahindajit and Simmons will lead the field over the line as we get round 30 underway with the Manufacturer Series for the Oceania region. So Mahindajit leads the field over the line as they head in towards the first corner. Group 3 cars here at the Tokyo Expressway as we get underway. A few drivers weaving there in the background as we come in towards the first corner. Of course, it's a street circuit here, in case you hadn't already noticed, so it's quite tight around this track. There's no runoff there either, so choosing your passing place and where you're going to strike, and crucially when, is always very important.
Well, it's a good place down the bottom here. Long run down to the first hairpin. Matt Simmons in the draft. Well, Mahindajit in front, looks to the inside. Will he? Barbara is in the background in the Mazda. He's going to have a go at Matt Simmons right on the back there of the Porsche driver, not quite able to make their way through, but Matt Simmons sneaks on by into first place. Barbara just trying to keep the car in a straight line. Twitchy Racing is on the side of his car. Twitchy Racing is what he's doing, up in the second place, and Jay Wong picks up a second penalty there. Must have been contact. Cy Bishop in the mix as well. Barbara goes up into second place. Terrible start for Mahindajit then. He's gone down to third. Now we're on board with Jay Wong in the Mazda. Very distinctive noise at the rotary engine. Just squealing, I guess, is the word for it, going for the tunnel, and there goes Barbara on Bishop round the outside. Bishop had a bit of a slow run through. That's going to slow him down. Jay Wong's going to try and find his way through. He does then. Up the inside now, drafting up through. Great first lap for these guys, full of action, but not for Jay Wong. That penalty is definitely going to hurt him.
Yeah, absolutely right. Now down towards the heavy braking zone. This is where a lot of drivers are going to be trying to sneak on through. You can see Adam Wilk there on the inside, Andrew Lee, Cy Bishop shuffled to the outside there. Somebody running very wide in the background. Jay Wong with that penalty is going to be a sitting duck when he does indeed serve that, but Gope Mahindajit then in second position. He's just told me how to pronounce his name correctly. It's Gope Mahindajit, who we've been incorrectly referring to him thus far. He's in P2 in that Nissan. but this is very close racing indeed, except for Matt Simmons, who's pulled out a 1.6-second advantage on this opening lap. You can see him there in the front of the shot, just pulling away as these drivers squabble amongst one another. We come to the end of the first lap here at the Tokyo Expressway. Let's see what's going to happen then as the drivers come back into that slipstream once more. Look at the legs on that Mazda. Guy Barbara versus Gope Mahindajit then side by side we come down the start finish straight. Mahindajit's got the track position, he's got the inside line, he holds firm for P2, but this is going to be very interesting coming into a straight because here comes Jay Wong to try and attack on Guy Barbara as well. Side by side they come down the straight as we go once more. Now Wong is ahead into third place and he's going to try and sneak off second here as well from Mahindajit. Then they go side by side now down this straight into the heavy braking zone. Wong's on the outside, he's coming into the penalty zone, he goes deep into the corner, runs it a bit wide. That's going to cost him time. It's going to allow Barbara to come back at him, but he's got that penalty as well that he's going to serve very shortly, and that's going to drop him right down the order.
They will have a bit of Mazda and Mazda action. Now watch that ghosting. There goes the penalty. He'll be ghosted until he gets back up to speed again. He's actually got away with that okay, I think. They're quite into a braking zone just after a penalty zone there, which helps him get by. So he stays up in 5th place, but still, he's lost out a little bit. Meanwhile, in the GTR, now going to try and catch Matt Simmons, who's picked up a 0.5-second penalty. I just noticed that's track limit, so Matt's maybe touched the wall somewhere or been a little bit too enthusiastic with the curbs. Not many places you can do that round here, to be fair, so it must have been a wall touch. And Adam Wilk with a great start there in the Ford GT up into 4th position, where it says steering like a cross-channel ferry on the front of that car. One of Brooks' many lines. Cy Bishop, what are you doing, Cy? You've got to brave for that corner, mate, and he's hit. That's caused a bit of an effect. Wilk's picked up a penalty. I have no idea how he's got away with that. So Cy dives into the corner, hits Adam Wilk, and Adam Wilk somehow comes up with a penalty.
This is very big drama, isn't it, going on here? There's a lot of action up and down the field. Cody Lakovsky making his way through. He's made 4 positions from where he qualified, now sitting in P5 in that Mercedes-Benz. It always goes better in race trims compared to qualifying there for Cody. Another penalty there as well for one of the drivers. Was that Lee that picked up that penalty? It was actually Emily Jones, in fact, who's picked up a 1-second penalty. Looks like Lee there, or no, in fact, Wilk has one. So those two in 8th and 9th position. Jones and Wilk have penalties. This man here, the race leader, Matt Simmons, has a penalty as well, half a second, as you can see. Still, he has 1.5 seconds over the rest of the field. But there's action aplenty up and down the field, and that's the thing about this Tokyo Expressway, is it promotes close racing, as you can see here with Cody Lakovsky and Cy Bishop going side by side into the left hand, and then Lakovsky in the Mercedes on the inside. He's through into 4th position. Is Bishop going to try and attack and retaliate into the heavy braking zone? We go with the right-hander. Lots of moves being made potentially a bit further down, but Lakovsky holds firm and holds 4th place.
So Mercedes, interestingly, are actually the global leaders in the manufacturers series, despite the car not being there this year. They've had a strong showing from both the EMEA region and, of course, the Oceania region here as well. So both very quick here, and of course helping out plenty, and Cody's a big part of that, currently dragging that car up into 4th place. So a terrible turn of luck for Adam Wilk, though. He's now down to 11th place after this time last lap he was here with Cody. He's up into 4th, so terrible start for him, unfortunately, with those incidents earlier on. Now will Cy make the corner this time? I don't know if he was helped off last time, but he missed the braking zone by a country mile, and you see just having to get out of the throttle there, the dirty air from Cody interfering with the cornering grip of Cy Bishop's Toyota. Cody goes defensive, as you thought he might do there. This time Cy gets it onto the apex and keeps the place for now. A bit sideways and exit though, nearly touching that wall and exit. If you do that, it slows you right up. And it's important not to do that there, because this is a big acceleration zone, and any time you lose up the corner, you lose all the way up to the next corner.
So then Andrew Lee in 7th position, putting some pressure on Keegan McDonald in the BMW. We're used to seeing Keegan fighting a bit further up the order in that M6, but no such luck here for him so far, sitting in P6 as things stand. Let's see whether he can make a further ascension through the field. Cy Bishop in front of him, Andrew Lee behind. You can see Wilk there with another penalty that it looks like he's picked up, because he's just served the original one that he had. Whether that's for track limits, whether it's for contact with another car, we don't know, because we didn't see it on screen. Meanwhile, the big loser in all of those penalties was Emily Jones. She's dropped from inside the top 10 down to P14, and that just goes to show, doesn't it? One mistake can cost you dear.
Yeah, I mean, especially around here, you know, it's a Tokyo Expressway with a lot of circuits. You make a mistake, there's a bit of grass there, or gravel, so you can sort of gather yourself back up again. Here is a barrier, and that...
it's not very soft.
No, they're not. I've heard that. The GT barriers as well, very well reinforced, so they are moving, I'll tell you that. when you hit there, man, you lose a ton of speed even just grazing one around here. So it's super important to be nice and clean. Now, Matt Simmons, his penalty, that's allowed Gopay, Mahindered it. Thank you very much for letting us know to say that. Tom over there, happy that he's finally said it right over after all this time.
It's a small victory, but I'll take it.
Yeah, we'll take what we can get here at the GT commentary desk. Up into second place, and now starting to chase down Matt Simmons. Meanwhile, Cy Bishop has got back by Cody Lakovsky, but now they're going door to door through the tunnel. Cy has to get out of it because they're both not going to go through there two abreast, and that's allowed McDonald behind to get a little bit of a run, and Lee in there as well. These 4 cars covered by less than a second right now as we're coming down to the hairpin, one of the best overtaking spots in the circuit. Cody's on the outside, he's going to stay there. Takes an early entrance into the corner there just to cover off, I think, from the rest of them to make sure no one else tries to move. But you see on exit, all sorts of sideways trying to get out of the corner as quick as possible.
Yeah, getting back onto the power once more. Those drivers being very sensible through there. They know they've got a lot to lose. And the thing is, whilst they've got a lot to lose, they are also in turn losing touch with Jay Wong in the Mazda, who's in 3rd position. And anybody who says the Manufacturer Series doesn't promote close racing, just have a look at that timing tower on the left-hand side of your screen. 7 different manufacturers inside the top 7 positions. If that doesn't promote diversity, I don't know what does. Brilliant racing between all of these drivers here. Very different machinery underneath them. The cars feel different to one another, despite perhaps not looking so different in terms of their appearance. And well, it takes a certain driver to be able to get the maximum out of them. That's what these guys are able to do, is just extract the maximum from them week in, week out. So that is what makes them so impressive, and that is why they're racing here in these top 16 Superstars events.
But we can all agree that the Nissan GTR is a superior machine, Tom, can't we? I think we can.
Well, I mean,
I think we can.
I don't think, again, as I've said all season long, I don't think there's any bias there, Jimmy, to be honest with you. I think that you are Mr. Impartial when it comes to Nissan.
I'm above that.
Sponsored by Nissan. Goodness me. Cody Lakovsky leads this battle for 4th position, as you can see. The German manufacturer doing a good job. The Australian driver behind the wheel as well. As we said, always seems to race better than he qualifies in these cars. And he's always sort of in the lower half of the top 10, which gives him a lot of work to do. And it has given him a lot of work to do here, and as such, because he had to fight his way through the field in those opening few laps, he's lost touch with the top 3 positions. You compare that to the Nations Cup race we saw a few moments ago. He was fighting at the front from the very start, but that sadly didn't work out. It's proving to be a bit of a race in reverse here for Lakovsky. Pressure from behind, though, with Cy Bishop and Keegan McDonald coming into the party here as well, coming down in towards the heavy braking zone of the hairpin. Don't think anybody's going to send it down the inside at the moment, but certainly you can just see how much they were able to close up on that straight. And the thing is, they'll be thinking about that perhaps later on into the race, if they're still running as close as they are with one another, that they'll be thinking about that being an overtaking opportunity for them.
Luckily that Merc has some legs in a straight line, so it's able to sort of defend itself coming into the hairpin there. Meanwhile, front of the field, Mahindered it is now right onto the back of Simmons in front. So it's Porsche versus Nissan as we come down the start-finish straight. After this is a square left-hander. Look at the grunt of the GTR. Goodbye, Matt, says Gopi on the way on the inside there. He'll take the position up into T1. Here it is. He's not quite on the ideal line, having just overtaken Matt, but he should have come out of it all right. But now Matt is going to be treated to a slipstream all the way down to the first hairpin. Let's see just how quick and straight line that GTR is. Matt almost pushing the Nissan coming out down to the hairpin. It's going to be a bit of a drag race down here. Matt Simmons does have the inside line once more. He'll pull back by and take the lead back. Do you think there's a little bit of strategic play there by Matt? It's all right, you can overtake here, but I'm going to draft you back down. So
I wonder if these two are going to try and work together to gap Jay Wong there in 3rd position as well. Let's see whether they do so, because that gap has come down over the last few laps or so, and if they start squabbling, battling amongst one another, that's when the gap will come down even further. Might allow Jay to come and join this duo to become a trio of drivers battling for the race lead. Let's see what happens though between them. Lap 6 out of 17 we're on here for round 30, the final round of the 3rd stage of the online season for these drivers. Doesn't look like Gopi Mahindered has got any answer here. Simmons in the first phase of this tunnel, but coming out of it now, coming into the hairpin is where he might be thinking about trying to launch an attack, but Lakovsky into the wall on the outside. That'll cause him to lose momentum and positions as well. Potentially into the braking zone we go. Is anybody going to send it down the inside? No, they don't. So I was wrong there. I thought Lakovsky might lose out, but in fact he didn't. He was able to hold on to P4.
I felt as if he was helped into the wall there a little bit, the way he looked like he hit it. Maybe he just got the turn in wrong. Of course, these cars are so marginal on grip through that section that if you do get the line wrong, you can quite easily end up leaving a little bit of paint for our Japanese street workers to clean up in the morning after we finish our race. That must be horrible after this. My glorious roads have been ruined by these racing cars.
I'm just wondering what's happened here to Guy Barber as well. He's down in 11th position. Bear in mind where he qualified. He's lost 8 places off the start. I wonder whether there was contact with any other drivers, because he was involved in this little squabble with Cy Bishop and the like in the early stages, but he's lost 8 places, and I don't think he's not made a pit stop. He's not done anything wrong as far as I can see. We didn't see him facing the wrong way, so maybe there was contact with another car, but either way, that's a shame there for Guy Barber in the Mazda, and it has put pay to his race as things stand. Outside of the top 10 now. Let's see whether he can try and turn things around and recover. Here comes Cy Bishop trying to attack back against Lakovsky. Down the inside into the heavy braking zone of the hairpin and into 4th place.
There you go, up to 4th, and of course now we sort of play a bit of a back and forth game here. Cody will now have the draft all the way up to our hairpin, but look how much better that Toyota is on exit. Just through that section there. How is it for this fast right hand? I'll be interested to see the differences between the two cars here. McDonald's in the background, the BMW looking fairly decent as well. On exit though, actually, saying that again, Code did a much better run now, has the draft through the tunnel. The thing is, this isn't really a straight. You treat it like a straight, and by that I mean you keep your foot planted to the floor, but it's far from it. You can see the cars going through the corner there, and Cy coming across to try and defend. I think he's managed to keep that position for now. Now McDonald is also looking maybe to make a move on Cody coming into the hairpin. Now that BMW hasn't quite got the straight line speed it needs. You can hear the Toyota pretty much right up the top of the rev range. Cody looking up the inside. Will he go for it this time? He does. Cody goes for the move on the inside. Should have it done. There you go. Comes across there to take the line. Cy back down the 5th. They're just trading places right now.
They are. You see the brake disc lighting up there for Lakovsky like a rental car dashboard. They were glowing that bright into the hairpin. Manages to make it through into 4th position, does the Australian driver. That'll be a welcome sight for him. A bit of clear track in front, but how long is it going to be for? Cy Bishop's picked up a penalty there. So was there contact between the two? Maybe it was track limits there for Cy Bishop. Maybe he grazed the wall one too many times. Not quite sure what happened, but either way, a 1-second penalty is not a very welcome sight. I like his logo on the rear wing though.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. I'm not quite sure how much you paid him to put that on there, but
money in good words.
It's not enough, I can tell you that already. But yeah, aside of that penalty, that's going to really upset his race, and I'm struggling to kind of work out where that was from at the moment, but it's there nonetheless. He's going to have to deal with it, which will mean he'll drop behind McDonald. Now, his only saving grace is that the penalty zone is kind of just before a corner on this circuit, so you sort of get away with it a little bit. Only a little bit though. So Cy's going to try and pop around the outside now of Cody, just try and slow him down a little bit and try and negate some of this penalty, but it's not really worked out for him. So coming out of this little chicane now, he'll serve his 1-second penalty. His car will ghost when we hit those markers there. There we go. And back on the throttle after a second. That feels like an eternity, I can tell you that right now. Again, fortunately for Cy, it's not in a terrible place this time, so he should be able to hopefully pick up the draft again and get back into the fight, but that'll be enough to probably have him utter some unhappy words.
Just having a look at some of the point standings here as well. If Keelan McDonald, who's currently running P5, if he finishes 6th or above, it'll improve his points rankings, and he could potentially leapfrog Adam Wilk to 2nd place in the standings. There's only a 36-point gap between them. Meanwhile, here comes Jay Wong down the inside of the Mazda into 2nd place then. Nicely done there for Jay. He's through as Matt Simmons comes into the pit lane from the race lead then.
Where did Jay come from? Jay sort of, I think he was a little bit further back and decided, right, okay, now it's time to go for the lead there. What a great sound that thing makes. You can't beat a rotary, especially around these streets where the sound is just echoing off the walls as it finds its way through the street circuit, right? So we're just, I think we're on board now with Matt Simmons. He's just come out the pit lane on that fresh set of medium tyres. So I assume, well, he's pitted about the halfway mark, so it should be to the end now on these mediums. But importantly, he's got a little bit of free air, so he can use this fresh tyre and maybe try and get an undercut. Of course, here we are. Minjic now going back up into 1st place. It's all a big drafting battle around. Just the place has changed fairly often. A bit like an oval in that respect, but on the streets of Tokyo.
Expert analysis there from Jimmy Broadbent.
That's why I'm here.
It is, yeah, absolutely. Lap 9 of the 17 we're on. Here comes Jay Wong, ready to try and challenge for the race lead against Gopay then. Can he try and find his way through at the moment? Not quite. Into the braking zone we go. The difference in lines here is quite pronounced, isn't it? Because drivers will try different lines. It looks like they're running wide, but that's just the way they're running through those corners. It's such a wide part of the track in comparison to everything else being so narrow here at the Tokyo Expressway. It looks quite uncharacteristic, really, but it does allow drivers to find a different way through, which can catch me off guard. I don't know about you.
Well, you have to think about it, right? Is that if you get the line wrong around here, maybe, I've taken a bit too much curb on the inside. That's the wall in this race. So you hit the wall and you bounce off it. Conversely, if you run a bit too wide on the exit, there's a wall there as well. So it's about being like pinpoint precise around here. Otherwise, you have those moments and it just slows you right down. J1 then looking at the inside of Gopay Mahindra. He should have this done. He does. Up the inside once more, back up into the lead. But wide, I say wide, into the pit lane.
Was that intentional?
Yeah, Mahindra just sneaks on by there. I've never seen that. And overtake into the pit lane. I think there was a pit stop intended there, but I don't think he intended to enter the pits that way. And Matt Simmons there, undercut works perfectly for the Porsche driver. He goes back up into the lead and has the run to break the draft from these two. So if he can get away and keep this gap, he might be able to pull a bit of a lead.
Let's see what happens then. So, an advantage for Matt Simmons. Can he increase that advantage here? Fresh rubber underneath him now, clear track in front of him, so no pressure immediately from behind there either. Just having a look at fastest lap times in this race. Actually, Adam Wilk, who's been quickest in 7th position, 155.7 for him, and he's lapping consistently a bit quicker than the drivers around him as well. So let's see whether now he's on fresh rubber, is going to be able to make an ascension through the field, because it's been a bit of a race where he's been kind of out of position more than anything. That's Ford we're used to seeing fighting a bit further up the order, but P7 is where he sits at the moment in this race. J1 still challenges Gopay Mahindra then for the race lead through into the tunnel. We go once more. And in the slipstream for Wong, can he pull alongside? He certainly can. Can he get his through into 2nd position? He certainly can as well. Deep on the brakes he goes, though, runs it a bit deep into there, a bit wide. Gopay up the inside once more. Very close on corner exit, but Mahindra gets it back, holds firm into 2nd position there. So just playing the patient game through that corner for Mahindra worked out quite nicely. Yeah,
that's what you got to do sometimes. You got to just actually think ahead and think, well, I might be able to get ahead here, I might be able to draft, might be able to get the position, but it's going to be taken back from me, of course, the corner after. So it's all about that timing around here. J1, definitely one of the contenders for the win around here, if they can work together and catch Matt Simmons. That gap's still at 1.3 seconds. That's about what it was when Matt exited the pit lane, so they just need to get it together. Draft comes in around a second or so, around there. So you see Jay there overspeeding, having to get off the throttle, still having to get off the throttle. There's no way by.
Good defensive driving there from Mahindra. I have to say, parking that car in exactly the right position, but Wong there clearly with a good bit of straight line speed, and that'll give him confidence, I'd say, especially later in the race when he knows he's got that advantage of the straight line speed. That Mazda clearly very quick around this Tokyo Expressway circuit. Of course, a new car to Gran Turismo relative to these other Group 3 cars, which have been in it since near enough its launch, if not its launch. And this Mazda came into the game, of course, earlier on this year as part of a brand new partnership between Mazda and Gran Turismo. And lovely to hear a different engine tone as well. That rotary screaming as it goes round this Tokyo Expressway circuit, and clearly J1 getting the best out of that car. This is a good performance here from the Australian, one of the best that we've seen all season.
And importantly, that straight line speed of the GTR is dragging the Mazda with it, and they're both going towards Matt Simmons. So Simmons, though he did have the undercut and initially had a bit of a gap to get by, you see now Jay Wong starting to get fed up with following the GTR, or is he? He keeps lifting off. I think maybe he's he seems fine where he is right now, actually. Maybe just playing the long game.
Maybe they want to work together to try and close that gap down. If they are trying to work together, it's working quite nicely for them because that gap has come down. It's now under a second for the first time in, I don't know, about 6 or 7 laps or so. So that's very impressive from these two. Let's see whether they're able to close that gap down, whether we're going to have a 3-way scrap for the race lead. Sign me up if so.
Yeah, it's very difficult as a driver, be it in sim or on track in real life, to have that patience. Like if you're quicker than the guy in front, you go, oh, I want to pass him. But sometimes it's beneficial not to, and do what Jay is doing here, and just using that slipstream. Now would be a good chance, I think, to slingshot by Mahindra and get onto the back of Simmons, because look, they're both just putting on Simmons like he's standing still. A 10th is now the gap, and Mahindra just going to go up the inside. There it is. So that was half a second gained in a straight. that Porsche in a straight line has nothing in return for the Nissan or for the Mazda behind it. And just like that, Matt Simmons goes down to second position.
Let's see what happens then between these three drivers. Meanwhile, the man on the move is Adam Wilk, fastest overall last time around, a new fastest lap in this race of a 1:55.6. Just got ahead of Cy Bishop now, so demoted the Kiwi down into 7th position. Let's see whether Wilk can close the gap down to Cody Lakovsky. So clearly a new set of medium tyres underneath him is a very welcome result indeed, and whether he is going to be able to close that gap down is of course a big old question, but certainly he has the pace underneath him at the moment to try and do so. So coming down the straight we go then, in towards the left-handed kink, starting lap number 12 onto the first turn we go, and Wilk there looking very handy indeed. Meanwhile in the background, just keeping an eye on everybody else, everyone else relatively spread out up and down the field. You see a bit of bodywork damage there for Wilk, so clearly he's had a bit of contact with another driver, but Bishop there trying to retaliate against Wilk, going door handle to door handle nearly down the start, down this back straight rather, into the hairpin and through into 6th position there for Bishop. So Wilk demoted back down into 7th.
I mean, it's not been a great race for Wilk. He's recovered somewhat nicely, given that him being battered around at the start. But this Ford GT compared to the rest of the field is somewhat archaic. Bear in mind this thing came out, I think 2004, 2005. This car.
It's around then. It's a long old car. It's an old car. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's still going strong. And the Wilk, of course, as I always say, he's been a Ford driver for as long as I can remember, really standing by that particular manufacturer. It's always great to see that affiliation there. And it's been a good season for them, I think. It's been a really good season for them.
Well, do you remember when this car came out? Because it was the launch car, of course, on GT4. It was on the cover of it, wasn't it?
Moon over the castle.
There you go. It was, I'll tell you what, something I'm actually really impressed with is a man who's a little bit further back from these guys. Matt McEwen made 8 positions from his starting place on the grid. There he is in the Alfa Romeo, sitting in P8 at the moment. Slowly, calmly, quietly made his way up through the field. P8 in that Alfa Romeo, which we know is not the quickest car in Group 3 trim, will be a very, very impressive result for him. Meanwhile, Keelan McDonald actually in 4th position as well, likewise made 7 positions considering where he qualified. That's nicely done for the BMW driver, and he is not too far away from the podium. He's got Cody Lakovsky breathing down his neck at the moment, but this is a nice little battle going on between these guys.
Thinking with the Alfa is it just struggles a lot in a straight line. It hasn't got that acceleration or the top speed. If it has a draft with somebody else, that is kind of negated a little bit, so he can sort of stay with people. So I guess that's what he's been trying to do, just trying to stay with someone in front and just sort of be towed along. Meanwhile, McDonald here in the Bimmer, down the straight once more. There's Cody. Cody's always there or thereabouts, isn't he? He's always around and always got to watch out for Lakovsky, and there he is, driving by McDonald up into 4th position. Now, can he catch Matt Simmons and get into this fight for the lead? It's about 2 seconds. The Porsche, we know, isn't that quick in a straight line. The Mercedes is fairly decent. If he can get there, he can then use Matt to slingshot onto Jay Wong and Mahindra. Again, it reminds me of that GT4 license test in the Renault Aventine at Le Mans, where you have to slipstream your way down the straight and get up to the lead. So not quite Renault Aventines these, but the practice is the same.
Oh, the memories. Oh, the memories. We're looking forward to you doing some license tests at some point, actually. I think that'd be good fun.
No more.
Jimmy's going for gold once more. Speaking of going for gold, Keaton's going for 4th. Here we go then. In the slipstream he is once more in the BMW. Not quite close enough to mount a challenge against Cody Lakovsky at the moment, but still, those two fighting hammer and nail at the moment as things stand. Gope Mahindra 0.2 of a second ahead of Jay Wong in 2nd position there, so that gap is continuing on. Matt Simmons actually 1.5 seconds back of those drivers, so he clearly doesn't have the pace in this second phase of the race. He's already made his one and only pit stop as we were expecting in this one, but just doesn't have the car underneath him really to put the performance to the top 2 now.
No, I think I get the impression that it's just being let down by straight line speed around here. It's very important. You look at the track map on your top right and you see why it is. You know, lots of top speed and acceleration zones here, and you haven't got the car, you haven't got the horsepower there, or maybe the car's got a bit too much drag. Then you just find yourself struggling there. I mean, I'm sure he's pretty quick in the corners, but just not quick enough to offset that top speed. So here is Wilk and Bishop once again. Very good friends, these guys. Cy Bishop there, that terrible Tom Brooks Media logo on now. I'm not quite sure what bin he found that in, bless him.
Thank you. Glowing character reference, I appreciate that.
Oh, man.
I'm going to give him some more logos to stick on for other races. It's a shame it's the end of the top 16 superstars. I didn't ask him to put that on, by the way, I hasten to add. Did you see your face adorning the rear of the car as well?
No, I can't. We can't escape that one terrible picture. So the drivers also has in the events, they had a WhatsApp group that I managed to infiltrate one time, and that was a sticker on WhatsApp.
Was it?
Yeah, that picture. So people just start posting that picture over and over. It's a weird experience anyway. We'll get back to the race and not back to the weirdness of our events. But Adam Wilk again in that Ford GT. Oh man, I thought he was going to run into the wall there. Bishop actually pulled offline and lets Wilk through. So maybe again a bit of working together there. I think Bishop understanding that Ford's, it's pretty fast on the straights. I'm going to just sit behind him, says Bishop, and draft up maybe to the back of McDonald and Lakovsky. By the way, Lakovsky, that gap from 2 seconds to Simmons is now down to 0.8.
So it's coming down then, isn't it? Let's see what happens. Let's see whether that gap does close down. Difference in lap times between Mahinderjit and Wong last time, 10th of a second between them. Wong the quicker of the two drivers. Here is Lakovsky, still making his way through the field. As I said, been a good race from him so far, but I don't quite know if he's got anything left in his locker to try and close up to the back of Matt Simmons. Matt Simmons has been falling back. It's now 1.6 seconds the gap between himself and the top two. Let's see whether Lakovsky and maybe even McDonald can get themselves into the battle for the podium. That's a tantalising prospect with only 2.5 laps now remaining here at this Tokyo Expressway. These tyres, of course, are going to be coming towards the end of their shelf life as well, so I wonder how much rubber they'll have underneath them as well. Maybe Matt Simmons went a bit too hard too soon, and that's why he's now beginning to struggle. Meanwhile, here is Bishop, not struggling at all. Pulling alongside Wilk, into the tunnel we go. Bishop through into 6th place, but for how long? Because they're going to go in towards this hairpin. He's actually, in fact, got track position and got that place once more. And Keelan McDonald, speaking of getting places, is now ahead of Cody Lakovsky for 4th.
Sorry, I just noticed it says a day late and $1 short on the back of Wilk's car.
For goodness sake.
Those cars are just a treasure trove of interesting...
Of quotes I stole from Martin Brundle.
Yeah, I mean, this is why custom GT liveries are fantastic. But, so interestingly, McDonald deciding that he wants to be the one to chase Simmons and not Lakovsky. But now, of course, he's put himself in the position of basically punching a big hole in the air for Cody to duck into and gather a bit more top speed down the straight. Now, Simmons really needs to get a move on if he wants to hold his third place, because these guys are not going to wait around once they get onto the back of that Porsche. It looks like Mahinderjit in front has managed to gap Jay Wong a little bit, so really the big battle now is for third place. Cody, you can't accuse him of not trying, sideways out of the hairpin now, and he's now hot in pursuit of Matt Simmons in that Porsche. The gap's still about 0.8 per second, but he'll now be picking up a sliver of draft from that Porsche, which will help him close up in the straights.
Like a dog on a polished floor, he was sliding out of that corner there, wasn't he? Just getting on the power a bit too eager.
Is that quote on Adam's car?
It's not yet. No, I'm waiting for it in the future. When we get the World Tours back underway, that's what I want to see. More custom liveries from these guys. Meanwhile, through to start another lap we go then. Here, the penultimate lap at the Tokyo Expressway, and Cody Lakovsky has got Max Simmons in his sights, ready to lock and load, and ready to try and find his way past. Into the left-hander we go, under the Tokyo Expressway banner, coming in towards the tunnel section. And this, of course, you can see the lights flickering like an all-night Japanese rave coming through here. Wonder if Lakovsky is going to try and flash the lights as well to try and distract Simmons. We do see that quite a lot.
Here we are. On the outside of us right now is McDonald. You can't see him. He's just backed out of it. We're just looking in the mirror. McDonald tried the long way around for Cody, and now he's trying to sneak back inside at the first apex. He'll be left out to dry in the second and the third, though, and Cody is still there. Thing is, these guys having a little bit of a fight is really helping Matt. He needs this because he's got no one to put him along in the straight line. It's just him out there trying to keep the Porsche ahead of Lakovsky and McDonald at the moment. And now I think Cody is just starting to pick up that slipstream. Here we go now. It's under 0.8 per second. So from here on now, the car is going to be going quicker and quicker as that draft gets stronger and stronger. McDonald, though, opting to try and fight Cody. They don't want to be doing this right now. If they want to fight for third place, they're going to be slowing each other up. The gap now down to half a second. So 0.3 of a second, Matt there lost in a straight line. And all he did was put his foot down. That is the disadvantage of the Porsche. Cody looks in there at the end of the exit of the corner, almost put the front quarter on Matt Simmons, but Matt managing to get out of the corner quickly. Matt, of course, bit of an old hand at this racing, both this and real life, so he's not going to be intimidated by Cody, that's for sure. But with only one lap left to go, it's anyone's game for third position.
Knows his stuff, does Matt Simmons. Let's see whether he can put that knowledge to good use. Keaton McDonald, by the way, just if he finishes ahead of P6, he will leapfrog Adam Wilk to second position in the standings at the moment. If it stays as it is, he'll be on course to do that then. So, final lap time here at Tokyo Expressway, round 30. Is about to come to its conclusion, and it's anybody's guess as to who is going to get the final position on the podium. Will it be Simmons? Will it be Lakovsky? Will it be the man we're riding on board here of Keaton McDonald? Through the left-hander we go, and down into the tunnel. Where are they going to be thinking about a move?
Here. You've got to do it here, and then you've got to try and defend going into the hairpin. I think the thing is, Cody's got no choice. He can't just back out of it. Matt Simmons has no response for that Mercedes in a straight line, but he's got the brakes in that Porsche. He'll try and hug the inside, and the McDonald's probably going to try and follow him through here. Cody's forced to the outside line. It's going to get very narrow up here. Cody's still side by side with McDonald, who just about keeps it out of the barrier on the right-hand side. Cody's got the run down to the right-hander. He should stay ahead. He does, and now it's every man for himself coming up the straight for the last time.
So then, this is where it begins to count. This is where we're going to see those moves being made for the final time. Into the tunnel we go for the last time of asking, and Simmons has got a bit of daylight between himself and Lakovsky. These two have been squabbling amongst one another, and it's now McDonald attacking Lakovsky. So BMW versus Mercedes as we come out of the tunnel into the air. We go once more, and McDonald is ahead of Lakovsky as he rubs the wall on the outside, though. They've been slipstreaming one another. I think there was maybe a bit of contact between them. That hairpin is really the last overtaking opportunity for McDonald to try and mount a challenge for the podium. It's now going to be a run to the line surely here between them, but Gopi Mahinderjit, what a race it has been for him. Only a few more corners from home for the Nissan driver. Through into the left-hander we go once more, then the right, then left for the final time. Mahinderjit has driven this race to absolute perfection, and Gopi Mahinderjit out of the final corner across the line to take the win in round 30 of the Manufacturers Series for the Oceania region. J1 comes home in second position, and third place, just by a whisker, is Matthew Simmons in the Porsche. The BMW of McDonald comes home fourth. Lakovsky in the Mercedes is fifth. Bishop comes home sixth. Wilk in the Ford comes home in seventh as the other drivers complete their race. Just inside the top 10 there was Andrew Lee and Matthew Allen, but what a great race there. Tension to the end, but Matt Simmons holding firm, doing exactly what he wanted to do.
Yeah, Matt Simmons did so well there to keep that place at the end. I think just didn't give in to the pressure of Cody, and then I think there might have been a little bit of contact through the tunnel. Either that or Cody got the apex a little bit wrong through the fast corner through the tunnel, but otherwise a great race from Mahinderjit, and of course the Nissan GTR victorious at last.
If only you could see the joy on Jimmy Broadbent's face. Goodness me, he's very happy about that one, I have to say. What a great race there. Emily Jones, she'll be disconsolate with that, as will Guy Barbara as well. Both disappointing races for the Mazda and the Audi driver, respectively in 11th and 12th position. Healy, Stankowski, Tame and Fayan complete our 16 drivers at the checkered flag for round 30 of the Manufacturers Series for the Oceania region. Well, that does bring an end to the top 16 superstars in 2020. Jimmy, you're going back into hibernation now, I think, right?
Yeah, in my cardboard box for the winter now.
Yeah, he's been outside for far too long, to be honest with you. Goodness me. Well, stay tuned to all of the Gran Turismo social channels and the website as well for more information. We've got a big announcement coming very soon about what we're up to for the remainder of 2020. In the meantime, from Jimmy Broadbent and from myself, Tom Brooks, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.